And this is a big reform in the education sector as foreign universities get ready to begin their new chapter in India by setting up branches. The UGC has said that foreign universities can only offer full-time programs in the physical mode. In other words, they cannot offer online or distance learning. The UGC chairperson has stated that those universities who get initial approval for 10 years in India, these universities who plan to set up their branches in India will have freedom to devise their own admission process for Indian and international students. They will need approval to set up campuses. UGC chairperson has stated that the regulatory framework allowing the entry of higher-ranked foreign veracities will provide an international dimension to higher education, enable Indian students to obtain foreign qualifications at affordable costs, and make India an attractive global study destination.
Joining us here on the program. My first question to you, of course, this is coming in as big news. There will be aspirants who aspire to go abroad, who aspire to study in foreign universities. They will now be looking at this option of having a campus of the top universities abroad here in India. What are the top few things that you would want to tell those parents, those aspirants who are watching us right now about this new move, sir?
The primary objective of the national education policy is to provide more freedom and choices to the students to choose their education. And as part of that, national education policy has advocated internationalization of our higher education. Currently, if you see, our students have only two options. You either choose an Indian institute and study in India, or you go abroad and study in a foreign university. Now we are providing a middle path, a third choice to the students. You stay in India, but study in a foreign university. So these regulations will provide access to the students at an affordable cost to high quality international education. And this is going to have a huge impact on the higher education landscape in our country.
Yes, absolutely. What I find interesting is the way you put it, and the way you have said it so correctly, that this is giving, in a way, an alternative, a third alternative. So far, students had just two options. Now, you have also said that 2020 has envisioned that top universities in the world will be facilitated to operate in India as part of the national education, new education policy. But there would be a lot of questions on what would be the regulatory body, what would be the fee structure like. When you say it will be affordable, would it be affordable by Indian standards, or would it be affordable, by the standards of foreign universities?
Again, going back to the national education policy, it advocates a light but tight regulation. So UGC would like to function as a facilitator and provide as much autonomy to the foreign higher educational institution when they set up their campus in India as possible. For example, these campuses, they can decide their own admission policy, they can decide their own faculty recruitment policy, and they can decide their own tuition fee. Now, when we talk about international education, there are two kinds of expenditure that the students have to bear. One, the heavy living costs when they live abroad, and of course the tuition fee. But if these foreign institutions come and set up their campuses here, the living costs are minimum. So at least to that extent, these students can afford. But at the same time, the foreign educational institutions, if they place their tuition fees at such a level that it becomes unaffordable to the students, then they will not be able to attract the Indian students into their campuses. Right. Therefore, they have to fine-tune their tuition fee structure so that it becomes affordable to the Indian students, and I'm sure that's going to happen.
Yes, another query that's bound to come up, Mr. Kumar, and you've said it very clearly, that one of the rules would be that these campuses, these universities can offer full-time programs in offline mode, not online or distance learning. Why is that important? Because wouldn't that mean that this is going to be a rather long-term proposal for foreign universities to actually clear all the approvals, set up campus? That sounds like the long haul.
Absolutely not. There are very clear-cut rules of Foreign Exchange Management Act, under which these institutions can set up their campuses here. There are several routes through which they can operate, but I will give you a few examples. For example, they can establish a company here in India under Companies Act and then run their campus, or they can come under Limited Liability Partnership Act, or they can also have a joint venture with an already existing Indian entity such as a university, or they can also establish a branch office and function through this. So the routes are already very well laid down. So there should be no problem in terms of the administrative processes. But when it comes to the academic processes and selection processes, we would like to give full autonomy to them, so that in terms of the quality of education and the selection process of the students and the appointment of the faculties, they can do as they do in the main campus back in their country.
What about the standard of teaching and learning, the facilities? How would you convince students, in a way, when you say it is the third alternative, that the experience, the learning experience, would be at par with a foreign university? How will that be ensured?
We are quite conscious of the quality of education in these campuses. That is why we have put some certain eligibility criteria. Only those universities which are within the top 500 ranks of the global university rankings are eligible to apply. But however, when they apply, there will be a standing committee of UGC which will examine the reputation and the academic standards of these institutions before permission to operate their campuses in India.
Are you already, do you already have such proposals in the anvil? Are you confident that there'll be enough number of top universities, as you put it, willing to set up shop in India?
There are already a few European countries which have approached and showed keen interest. And whichever foreign delegation that comes to UGC, when we explain about these regulations, they have shown very keen interest to look at this possibility. And we are quite hopeful that UGC will proactively work with the foreign universities and explain to them about the possibilities that India can offer to them if they establish the campuses in India. And we are quite hopeful that many universities will come forward to establish their campuses in India.
Mr. Kumar, since you said this would not be online or distance learning, I assume that the teaching staff, are you saying, would be from the pool of educationists, teachers in India? In that sense, will it provide employment opportunities for teachers in India, or would there be some other method, some other process in place as to who would constitute the teaching staff in these universities?
Well, these campuses can admit Indian students and also foreign students. They can employ foreign nationals as faculty members in these campuses. And if they find other talent available in India, they can employ them also. There are no restrictions on that. But on the part of the online and the ODL education not being permitted to be offered by these campuses, the very idea of setting up these campuses is to provide that experience of accessing international education in a physical mode, to have the opportunity to interact with other international students within the campus and international faculty members. That is the reason why we are not permitting them to offer any online or ODL programs in these campuses.
Right. The initial approval, sir, you're saying will be for 10 years. It'll be renewed in the 9th year. Could that act as a deterrent? Because then, this is not something that, any institution can take for granted. It's a limited period offer in a way.
Remember that only those universities which are highly reputed, which are well known, will be permitted to establish their campuses here. So it's not that at the end of 10th year, they are going to close down their campuses. But however, to maintain standards and quality of education, we are initially giving for 10 years. And then there is a simple review process And after that, they will be given an additional 10 years, and this renewal process can be continued. I don't foresee any problem with this renewal process.
Yes, Mr. Kumar, this move will be looked at, with a lot of hope. Are you also hopeful that this will, in a way, stem the brain drain, so to speak? That hordes of students apply abroad, want to go abroad, and we lose some great young talent to other countries. Do you think this kind of an initiative will sort of restrict that, be able to restrict talent back home, back in India?
You see, Indians have a huge aptitude for education. And that's the reason why in 2022 alone, about 4.5 lakh students have gone abroad for higher studies. And there are millions of other students who wish to have high quality international education, but it may not be possible for many of them because of financial and other family reasons. And It is that we want to establish these campuses so that even if some students continue to go abroad, which is their free choice, there will be many other students who will be immensely benefited by an exposure to this international higher education within our own country.
Yes, on two counts, I completely agree with you. The fact that, this will give access to a certain foreign university here in your own country, so accessibility, affordability by the argument of, how you will save on that living cost. Yes, okay, those two are big pluses, but in terms of quality of education, standards, perhaps the jury is still out. We'll have to see. The proof of the pudding would be in the eating. But one last question to you on the issue of how you are also saying that this is a draft. Of course, this will be open to feedback from all stakeholders. Will some of the rules that you just mentioned be negotiable then?
Our experience is that whenever we put the draft regulations for public feedback, we did get very useful comments and suggestions. And we are hopeful that on this regulation too, we will get useful comments and suggestions. And we are open to introduce any good suggestions that come from the stakeholders. And let me also add that we are going to send this draft regulation to the ambassadors of 55 countries where these top institutions are located to get their feedback. And we are also going to send these draft regulations to our Indian ambassadors who are there in these 55 countries, and send also to many top universities to get their feedback. So UGC is very open to any good ideas that come to improve the draft regulation.
And that's all from me on this edition. News and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned.